Здравствуйте, дорогие ребята! Дистанционная образовательная программа «Обо всем на английском» Центра «Радость» – это замечательная возможность совместить приятное с полезным, послушать прекрасные музыкальные произведения, отправиться в путешествие по страницам истории отечественной и мировой культуры и одновременно попрактиковаться в восприятии английской речи. Хорошо, если в ходе занятий вы будете повторять как знакомые, так и новые для вас английские слова, фразы и выражения. Занятия скомпонованы так, что для этого у вас будут все возможности. Премьеры видеозанятий будут проходить по воскресеньям раз в 2 недели, но смотреть их можно в любое удобное время. Главное, не забывайте каждый раз регистрироваться в анкетах Яндекс.Формы, ссылки на которые найдете в описании каждого ролика. Занятия программы «Обо всем на английском» разделены на циклы. По итогам каждого цикла вам будет предложено потренироваться в прохождении тестирования, проверить знания новых английских слов, терминов, выражений, ответить на вопросы на английском языке. Тестирование можно проходить трижды для достижения наилучшего результата. Пройдя тесты всех модулей программы, в конце учебного года вы получите итоговый сертификат Judge of Art, что значит ценитель, знаток искусства. Итак, дорогие друзья, настройтесь на восприятие английской лексики и приготовьтесь к нашему новому увлекательному путешествию.
Masterpiece.
Papal chapel.
Conductor.
Catholic.
Divine service.
Pilgrim.
Sistine Chapel.
A cappella.
Hello, dear children and parents! Today we begin a series of lessons dedicated to the mysteries of musical masterpieces. They are not well known, but they are beautiful and amazing. If we ask our friends, relatives, or strangers in the street what ancient composers they know, without hesitation or perhaps after thinking for a while, they will answer that they are Bach, Handel, or Mozart. And they will be absolutely right, because we begin our journey into the world of music with these names. These are the greatest musicians in world culture. But was there anybody else writing music at the time of those composers? And were there any other compositions besides these composers' works? Well, there certainly were. At all times, there were musicians, or people who also composed, who were well known. But the mystery of the story is that we don't know much about those people and their beautiful works. We will talk about them at our lessons. So, we go back to the 17th century. Gregorio Allegri was a singer in the Papal Chapel in Rome and an excellent composer. He died on the 18th of February in 1652. The biographers have little to say about Gregorio Allegri. The life of this musician priest was not full of events. He sang in the church choir as a boy, took holy orders in his youth, and then became a conductor in several cathedrals. What did it mean to be a conductor in the 17th century? He conducted a choir, composed music for various events and festivals, made arrangements of famous works. The compositions by Allegri were highly praised, and as a reward, he was made head of the choir of the Sistine Chapel at the Vatican, the city-state in Italy, in Rome. It is the residence of the Pope, the head of the Catholic Church. The works by Allegri were regularly played during divine services. However, they were not known as masterpieces. Only one of them was a triumph. It is Miserere. This composition is still one of the most mysterious in world culture. The choir Miserere mei Deus, meaning "Have mercy on me, God," in Latin, was written on the text of Psalm 50. Psalms are a special genre of prayer poetry. They form the basis of a church book called the Psalter. The Miserere was for singing on Wednesday and Friday of Holy Week, the week before Easter. The tradition was first introduced in 1640 and was only performed in the Sistine Chapel. The service, called Dark Morning Service, was performed in a special atmosphere. After each chant, one of the 15 candles was blown out, and when the last candle was still burning, the main moment of the service came. At the sound of the Miserere, the head of the Vatican bowed and prayed. The Miserere was considered a true jewel of the Holy See. The singers were forbidden to perform Allegri's works outside the Vatican, to take out notes, and even to transcribe them under penalty of excommunication. What is excommunication? It is a form of church punishment by which a person is excluded from the communion of believers, the rites or sacraments of a church, and the rights of church members. For people living in the 17th century, when society lived under the strong influence of the church, it was a severe punishment. 1,000 pilgrims traveled to Rome to hear the famous chant. The work lasted for 10 minutes, and soloists were allowed to enrich their melodies with various coloraturas. These are complicated passages for a singer. There was no need to write notes because the skills of the singers of the Sistine Chapel were passed from generation to generation. The mystery of the vocal virtuosity of the singers of the Sistine Chapel goes back to the Middle Ages, when there was still the Schola Cantorum, the singing school of the Papal Court. The Papal Court consists of people from the highest ranks of society and the priesthood. The Cantorum was considered Europe's first professional music school. After a brief break, the school reopened in 1471, thanks to Pope Sixtus XIV, who commissioned the building of the chapel, a masterpiece of culture and art. It was named the Sistine Chapel in his honor. The ensemble of singers is the choir of the Sistine Chapel. The Sistine Chapel choir performed and still performs papal functions both in the chapel itself and in any other church in Rome where a service is held by the Pope. The composition and the size of the choir have changed over the centuries, but one rule has never changed. The choir is only male and sings only a cappella, without the accompaniment of any instruments. The Sistine Chapel is now a group of 20 men, tenors and basses, and 30 boys, sopranos and altos. The men's choir, cantori, is composed of professional singers. The members of the boys' choir, pueri cantores, are students of a special school in Rome, known as the Schola Puerorum. The choir school was founded in 1963 and is located in the administrative and rehearsal building of the Sistine Choir. In addition to regular school education, they receive complete vocal and instrumental music training, which is necessary for choral singing for children from 9 to 13. Boys are not paid to sing at papal receptions, but are educated at school free of charge. The Schola Puerorum is a school for musically gifted boys. There is a very strict selection process for admission to this school. Only 10 students are selected each year. The results of the auditions and interviews show if a boy can study at the school. These are children who have reached the age of 8, first of all. In addition to all the regular school subjects, the young singers study vocals, solfeggio, music history, and the piano. From the 5th form, children sing in the Sistine Chapel Boys' Choir. The Schola Puerorum is the only school in Rome where music is taught at a high level and is included in the regular school timetable. As for the Sistine Chapel, since the late 20th century, in addition to its papal duties, the choir has undertaken international tours, participated in radio and television broadcasts, and recorded its best works. And we are back to the story of Miserere. The decision not to perform the Miserere outside the Vatican was the correct one. It was not a selfish desire to have the musical treasure, but rather to save its artistic value. Good acoustics and experienced singers are very important to be admired by parishioners. This is what the following story tells us. When Holy Roman Emperor Leopold I achieved the right to have a copy of the Miserere and perform it in Vienna, he was disappointed. He was sure he had been cheated and sent an angry letter to the Vatican. But the only problem was that in Vienna the work sounded dull and inexpressive because of the inexperienced singers. And the story of Allegri's Miserere continued. In 1770, 14-year-old Mozart arrived in Rome. He was traveling through Italy with his father. On Holy Wednesday, He was at this service in the Vatican, where he heard the legendary Miserere. When he came back to the hotel, he wrote it down from memory. On Friday, once again at the service, he only checked his notes and made a few corrections. The father of the young genius could not hide his delight. He wrote to his wife, Wolfgang's mother. As you know, the famous Miserere is highly honored in Rome. The musicians of the chapel, under penalty of excommunication, are forbidden to take out the music, to copy it down, or to give it to anyone. But we already have the notes of Miserere, and all this thanks to our Wolfgang, who wrote down the music from memory. Unfortunately, the fate of this score is unknown. Perhaps it was ruined by Mozart himself or his father. As true Christians, they did not wish to incur the wrath of the religious authorities. But young Mozart's work was not in vain. Under the influence of Allegri's work and the atmosphere of the divine service, he wrote his own Miserere. Padre Martini, an Austrian teacher at the Bologna Music Academy, from whom Mozart took lessons, approved of the genius' youthful experience. According to some accounts, Padre Martini, with the permission of the head of the Vatican, became the fortunate owner of a copy of the Miserere notes by Allegri. Another copy was kept in Florence. Anyway, the strictest prohibition on performing the Miserere outside the Sistine Chapel was gradually losing its power. In the 20th century, it was already performed all over the world. It is surprising that it was not performed only in the Sistine Chapel. The Vatican decided to refuse the legendary song in 1870. Only in the third millennium, in 2011, on the first day of Lent, in the presence of Pope Benedict XVI, Allegri's immortal creation was performed again. There is no doubt that the majestic impression made by this masterpiece depends on the manner in which it is performed and on the place where it is performed. Any classical work has its own way of performance and manner, and that is the mystery of the whole musical world, too. Well, that's all, dear boys and girls. Today we have met the wonderful composer Gregorio Allegri and his great work Miserere. We have learned about the life of the Sistine Chapel and such terms and definitions as coloratura, conductor, pope, papal court. We hope that this lesson has impressed you a lot and left good positive emotions. And we think that the sounds of this beautiful music will live in your hearts. We wish you good luck and see you again.